Royal Air Force Search and Rescue Organisation was established officially in February 1941. Since then, it has been involved in the rescue of more than 50,000 people. In the early period of World War II, many priceless aircrew lives were being lost in crashed aircraft on both training and operational flights. There was little in the way of resources or organisation to provide assistance or means of recovery for these airmen in peril, especially those who were ditched at sea. However, following the introduction of an organised emergency service, some 13,000 people were rescued during the course of World War II, 8,000 of them airmen.
The most memorable one was the Thunderbolt pilot. We were actually searching for someone, going out on a search for someone else, and we flew straight over the top of him. He'd only bowed out about 3 minutes previously to us. One half of his main west was operating. He wasn't in the dinghy, and when we landed, he thought, well, the RAF Rescue Service was absolutely beautiful because he'd just finished in the drink and we just picked him up.
Since the 1950s and 1960s, the total of people assisted has been well over 1,000 annually. The story of search and rescue goes back much further than its officially recognised founding date in February 1941. The story dates back to the First World War, with the first fully documented rescue of the crews of 2 aircraft in September of 1917. The survivors owe their lives to one of the homing pigeons carried on a Royal Naval Air Service seaplane. The seaplane got into severe difficulty when trying to rescue the crew of a ditched de Havilland 4. The pigeon was sent aloft with an SOS message. All 6 airmen were found alive 100 miles northeast of Great Yarmouth. Pigeon 16331 had died from exhaustion on reaching land. But his body with the message was found and acted upon, thereby saving 6 lives. The pigeon was preserved and is today a prized exhibit in the RAF Museum at Hendon. The tribute on the exhibit reads, "A very gallant gentleman."
Controller Coastal speaking. All right, thank you. Plotter.
Yes, sir.
Air sweeps 3 and 4 have returned early. Have them taken off the board with me.
Right, sir. Will you take down sorties 3 and 4, please?
Between the 2 wars, the RAF formed a coastal area command. Former RNAS flying boat squadrons were used, and some of those squadrons are still operational in the maritime role today. The RAF's Marine branch grew from the need to service the flying boats, and in 1932, the sea trials began of the special high-speed launches. These craft were to become such welcome sights to many a ditched aircrew during World War II. As the 1930s progressed, more and more flying was undertaken over water. Accordingly, there were developments in the provision of equipment, which in the event of the aircraft having to ditch, could sustain the aircrew until found by a launch. However, each station was still responsible for going to the aid of its own flyers whenever they were in trouble. When war broke out, there was little change in search and rescue arrangements. But in July 1940, it was realized that the majority of the 220 aircrew killed or missing in the last 3 weeks of that month had disappeared over the sea. Air Officer Commanding No. 11 Group, Air Vice Marshal Keith Park, and Vice Admiral Sir Bertram Ramsay, acting upon the urgent need, set up a localized rescue service. Air Sea Rescue was formed. They used light naval craft and the RAF's launches. These were backed up with airborne eyes in the form of a dozen Westland Lysanders borrowed from the Army. Executive control of all search and rescue operations in UK waters around the UK was assumed by the new Director General of Aircraft and Aircrew Safety in February 1941. Results were rapidly and dramatically improved. By the end of hostilities in 1945, 8,000 aircrew had been rescued, plus another 5,000 servicemen and civilians.
There was 22 miles to the French coast from Hawkinge, and he was 20 miles out just off Cape Grenay. We got there, we found him, and then the question was landing because he was in a minefield. We eventually got down, we picked him up, and then the question was getting off. We started taxiing down the lane of the mines, and we just got up flying speed when we noticed the end of the lane was sealed off with another mine. And then, you believe you me, it was all questions getting the aircraft airborne to miss it. And by both of us pulling on the dual controls, we broke the suction of the aircraft on the water, and it just bounced over the mine and bounced several times afterwards, I can tell you. But we did eventually get back to Hawkinge, and that was a pilot called Flight Lieutenant Van Schek.
It was in 1944 that the first rescue by helicopter winching was achieved. The pilot of this helicopter had earlier achieved the first actual rescue by helicopter when he had carried blood plasma to survivors of an explosion on board a US destroyer. The helicopter came about when on the 14th September 1939, Sikorsky, an American, first flew this machine. Then, with the Aircraft Corporation of America, he developed other machines which proved their reliability during active service in World War II. In 1947, Westland signed an agreement with the American company enabling them to build British versions based on the Sikorsky design. This bold and far-sighted policy decision ensured for Britain a domestic supply of helicopters with proven worth without burdening the government with development costs. It meant converting the engineering and drawing office skills from the fixed-wing aircraft, for which the company had been famous since 1915. The pioneer Westland helicopter was the Dragonfly, adopted and extensively used by the Royal Navy and later all over the world. Equipped with a winch, this helicopter accomplished thousands of air-sea rescues. Two years later came the Whirlwind, a larger machine with a much heavier lifting capacity. It became the most extensively used helicopter in production. It was proven in all conceivable conditions, from the Arctic to the tropics. The Navy, the Army and the RAF found the Whirlwind reliable in all sorts of conditions and situations. The Westland rotorhead, engineered to the highest safety factors, had two novel features which later became standard. Offset flapping hinges which allowed a wide range of travel at the center of gravity, enabling the cabin load distribution to be varied without the necessity of using ballast. Then, to prevent a blade being raised by gusting winds when starting up, a flapping restrainer was incorporated. Torque was compensated by the tail rotor, which also acts as a rudder. But even without it, the machine is under total control when rotating. It was, however, the helicopter's maneuverability which was so astounding. The method of powering a helicopter depended on operational factors and the availability of suitable engines. The Whirlwinds utilized piston engines of various makes, including the British Alvis and the Pratt & Whitney. The larger helicopters used a gas turbine power plant. These shaft-driven turbines were developed from the pure jet engines and were specially adapted for helicopter operations. They afforded greater power over weight ratios, offered less fire risk, and used a much more standard paraffin-type fuel, which was widely used in ships and aircraft. The prototype of the Westland Wessex helicopter was fitted with a Napier Gazelle engine. The Wessex was originally ordered for use by the Royal Navy, but the Royal Air Force soon followed. Since that time, helicopters have accomplished many thousands of rescues worldwide. In Britain, the Royal Navy was the first to operate helicopters and develop many of the rescue techniques still used today. In 1953 saw the first large-scale use of helicopters to rescue civilians and to provide aid. 15 UK-based helicopters lifted more than 800 people to safety when Holland was inundated with floodwater.
Hello, RTC. I'm ringing the bell. Yes, it's a scramble, Barry. Yes, go ahead, old boy.
The RAF reformed No. 22 Squadron in 1955, closely followed by 202 Squadron, both with helicopters with full search and rescue capability. Flights were stationed at or near an important RAF training station, and their primary task was to go to the aid of downed military air crews. However, they were soon involved in assisting civilians in trouble on land and sea.
A distress call, and the Royal Air Force swings into action. First on the spot, the crews scan the sea for the ditched pilot. Soon spotted, and the helicopter makes the area. The pilot looks in good shape. Down goes the winch. In seconds, the pilot attaches the harness, and up he comes. Slowly and gently, he is hoisted aboard, and within minutes is on his way back to base.
They have continued in this role ever since, which now accounts for 95% of all calls for assistance. The helicopter crews look on this task as very useful additional training to hone their skills for dealing with service and civilian aircrew incidents. Many awards and commendations for bravery have gone to men serving on search and rescue duties. Most notably, 5 George Medals, one posthumous, for exceptional courage and skill shown during rescue operations. RAF Rescue were called out to the aid of this floundering ship when a huge freak wave had ripped away its wheelhouse early one morning. The disaster had happened 9 miles west of Isla, with weather which was described as horrendous, with gusting high winds and mountainous seas. 2 men had been killed when the waves struck. The rest of the survivors were lifted off by a rescue helicopter and flown to Northern Ireland. The captain died later in hospital, and a woman crew member had been drowned. 48 crew members were lifted to safety in Ulster and then later transferred to Prestwick. There, the only British speaker on the ship thanked emotionally the British Rescue Services and described his fear.
big waves. I didn't believe to save, to survive. I didn't believe. I'm not first time on sea, but I didn't believe. Maybe first God help us, and after that the rest. Thank you.
4 naval and RAF rescue helicopters lifted the survivors from the pitching, crippled ship.
It's very difficult getting a winchman onto a badly pitching and rolling ship, especially when that ship isn't under power or when it couldn't provide any lights. We also use techniques which involve quite a lot of cooperation from the crew, and with it being a Russian crew, they found it very difficult to understand just what we were trying to do.
The end of another day and another job for RAF Rescue. The abandoned ship now drifting helplessly in the treacherous sea, but thankfully 48 lives were saved. The Royal Air Force maintains a round-the-clock, year-round search and rescue service covering the United Kingdom and a large area of the surrounding sea. RAF helicopters are available at coastal locations, crewed by men who know their local patch intimately, and who train constantly to cope with rescues from any kind of awkward spot on land and sea and in virtually any weather. During daylight hours, the helicopter crews are required to be airborne within 15 minutes and within 45 minutes at night. These times are almost always beaten by a considerable amount when a scramble call comes in from either of the 2 rescue coordination centres.
A normal shift here is 24 hours. You spend 24 hours in the building, and then you go home and you conduct another almost 24 hours, but not quite, at home on a thing called a seconds, whereby you have to be airborne within 1 hour. And for the crew that's actually on, they're in this room, and we get up about, everybody's up normally about 7:30, 7:45, by which time we tend to have been up, and then we have our chores. We do a flight planning, we survey the Met, make any decisions, and basically we're on a 15-minute standby. We have to be airborne and within 15 minutes, and we collate aircraft if there's any engineering problems. It's just a general tidy up and admin, really. And then the oncoming crew comes on at 9:30, and that's when their 24 hours actually starts from. Then there's a handover brief. The crew that's on will brief the oncoming crew of any engineering aspects with the aircraft and any tasks for the day. The oncoming crew will brief the Met, and if there's any relevant points that people deem should be noted, then they're reported there.
Scramble, cardiac arrest on the QA2 coming down Southampton water.
Backing up the RAF helicopters are Royal Navy and Coast Guard helicopters at a further 6 bases.
This is Queen Elizabeth II. I gather you're on your way to Haslar. Many thanks for your assistance. Most impressive.
In addition to this, there are the RAF Mountain Rescue Teams. These are manned by a small number of permanent staff and supported by around 30 volunteers at 6 RAF stations. Always on standby is a specially equipped Nimrod maritime patrol aircraft, which is stationed at RAF Kinloss in Scotland. This aircraft can be called on to get to an emergency very quickly, where it will immediately act as the on-scene coordinator of any helicopters and ships involved in the rescue operation. Although the RAF search and rescue system exists to help military and civilian aircraft crews, about 95% or more of its trade comes from other sources, such as shipping and people who get into difficulties in an unimaginable variety of ways on land and at sea. In most rescues, the RAF Rescue Coordination Centres at Edinburgh and Plymouth, which control all aerial resources, work very closely with all other emergency services, such as the police, fire brigade, ambulance and coast guards. During 1994, a single rescue control centre at RAF Pitreavie Castle near Dunfermline, Fife, will take over responsibility for the whole of the United Kingdom. At present, there are still 2 RAF Rescue Coordination Centres in the UK, one being RAF Pitreavie Castle, the other is at RAF Mount Wise at Plymouth and Devon. Between them, the Rescue Control Centre stand watch over an area extending almost to the Faroes in the north, the English Channel in the south, and about halfway across the Atlantic Ocean to the west, and to a similar point in the North Sea to the east.
We're going to investigate that. It's very, very fraught. However,
Pitreavie and Plymouth split this vast area of about 3 million square miles between them, roughly north and south of a line running between Aberystwyth and Lowestoft. Between them, they handle nearly 2,000 scrambles a year, providing assistance to about 1,500 people.
someone said to me once that in this job you don't have any failures, you have non-successes. Because any other way is to take on this tremendous responsibility and take it home with you. You can't really operate that way. Yes, we do have happy endings. The majority of them are happy endings. The ones that we're really pleased about, it's usually transfer of infants. A neonatal infant, say somewhere in the Outer Isles, who has to get into hospital at Inverness, say, send a helicopter there in the middle of the night, through blinding rain, snow, whatever, picks that infant up, gets him back to hospital, and then a day later we find that the child is alive and well. It's a tremendous satisfaction. So it's particularly children are the ones which get to me most. Conversely, the ones which sadden me are the ones where we send the team or the helicopter out, again in difficult circumstances. They do a tremendous job. They find the casualty, they fly the casualty into hospital, they come back and say, right, that's it. So a tremendous feeling of relief, a good job, well done. And then we find the following day that the casualty sadly has died. And those are the ones which really get to you. The fatalities we live with. If you find a body, that's just sad. But to have worked, got them into hospital alive, and then no matter the degree of skill on the medical staff, the person eventually dies, and that is so sad.
Good afternoon, Edinburgh RCC, my secretary. Yes. Yes. You're welcome. Bye-bye. Phone. Oh, Valley. Got a job for you.
What is it? Okay, it's a small boat, Point Linus, and that's all the details you've got. Okay, well, we'll go to the Coast Guard and we'll get some more details and we'll be on our way. Should be there in about 5 minutes. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Sheet 124, was it?
Yeah. London, Rescue 122 getting airborne out of Valley, down to the Carridris area for a 60-year-old youth. Okay.
What's grid reference again?
124.
Yep.
708.
708.
136.
136.
Both rescue control centres are manned continuously all year round by very experienced personnel who have served on maritime patrol aircraft or helicopters. The problems they can face range from a missing hill walker or transfers of seriously ill people to hospital to large-scale tragedies such as Zeebrugge, Piper Alpha and Lockerbie.
Telephone number?
Each call for assistance is closely assessed. Controllers draw together all available information, and if military search and rescue units are available, they are sent to the scene as quickly as possible. The controllers work closely with all other emergency services and coordinate all aircraft which are called to assist.
Well, it was Mrs. Groves, I think, or Greaves, who was lost in the hills, and there was a big effort, and it brought together civilian mountain rescue teams, 2 RAF mountain rescue teams, helicopters and so forth, and also Search and Rescue Dog Association. I think there was maybe 6 dog teams as well. So there was a huge effort, and after a couple of days the lady actually appeared alive and well. Much of the publicity was focused on, the amount of money she supposedly got from the papers. But to a certain extent it was a shame, because there had been a very efficient rescue conducted, and a very efficient search in fairly hostile conditions. From our point of view, we think the important thing is that we provide the service. The kind of other aspects of it, although it can amuse us, doesn't necessarily affect us.
In February 1994, RAF Mountain Rescue were called out to look for a woman climber who had been missing for 2 days on a Cairngorm mountain. Over 50 rescuers from RAF Luchas and RAF Kinloss were called in to help find the missing woman.
Just need an umbrella in it now.
Police had been alerted that Mrs. Greaves, a school secretary from Manchester, had gone missing after she and the rest of her party became separated after falling 200 feet through a snow overhang. The other members of the party had made it to safety and had raised the alarm. Mrs. Greaves had landed safely, but had got lost trying to find her way off the mountain. The weather had deteriorated to freezing conditions overnight, and by the next day visibility was poor with cloud cover down to only 2,000 feet.
Tony was in charge of that. He's still one of the executives, he's one of the team leaders. Oh yeah.
How's your left hand feeling?
Yeah. It's coming to.
Is it coming to? Is it?
Yeah.
A helicopter was called in by another team of rescuers, and while they waited for it to arrive, they tried to keep Mrs. Greaves awake by chatting to her. When they found her, she was cold and covered in ice, but luckily still alive and coherent. Her hands were frostbitten. They changed her outer clothing and wrapped her in fresh warm clothing which they'd carried with them. She was given warm fruit drinks and chocolate to try and restore some of her energy, for although they'd found her, the ordeal was still not over. They had to get her to hospital as soon as possible. She told her rescuers that although she had heard the helicopter circling overhead and had heard the rescuers calling to each other, she was unable and not strong enough to attract their attention. She was cold and weak with hunger and had suffered hallucinations in the 75 miles per hour winds. Her rescuers later said the only reason she had stayed alive was because of her knowledge of survival. She had been wearing all of the correct clothes and had put on everything she was carrying in her rucksack. she had taken shelter from the winds. Had she not taken those precautions and had no survival training, she would most certainly have died.
What would your message be to your rescuers, the people that brought you down off the mountain?
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, they were wonderful. They were wonderful. I was so glad to see them.
How did you feel when you saw Willie Fraser and the dog coming towards you?
Oh, I just broke down. I just thought, I'm okay now, I'm okay. People come to save me. They warmed me up and it was lovely, wonderful.
There are two training units within RAF Rescue. One is the Search and Rescue Training Unit, SAR2, and the second is the Sea King Training Unit, SKI-2. All pilots selected for training go initially to SAR2 at RAF Valley in North Wales. Here, the pilots going to fly the Sea King helicopter do a short search and rescue course, after which they move to the Sea King Training Unit at RAF St Morgan in Cornwall. The Wessex pilots spend a longer time at RAF Valley, then go directly to one of the flights within number 22 Squadron. All course members are either pilots who have experience of flying with the support helicopter force, or they've come straight to their first tour from the rotary wing training at RAF Shawbury. The Search and Rescue Training Unit at RAF Valley also handles the training of the men who carry out the rear crew roles in the helicopters. These trainees follow the same route through their training as the pilots.
The students on arrival here have undergone pre-course training in advanced medical techniques and other procedures that prepare them to commence their helicopter training. The helicopter training course is approximately 10 weeks in length, and they're subject to ground lessons, airborne tasks and debriefings, with exercises involving the mountain rescue team and various shipping in the area. On completion of the course, they're then posted to another unit where they will qualify on their aircraft type before taking up their job as an operational search and rescue winchman or winch operator.
Responsibility for all helicopter servicing is the task of the engineering squadron. Day-to-day work is carried out at the detached flights, while other maintenance is done at the headquarters at RAF St Morgan. The ground crews provide a 24-hour service, working 3 shifts, except in the case of a major emergency when all available hands are called on.
I've got 27 men under my control. They're split into 3 shifts, each working 24 on, 24 off, 14-day period, and then they have 7 days off. The engineering tasks they carry out are first line servicing, which is carrying out maintenance, the after flight servicing, before flight servicing, turnarounds between continuous flights, and then other than that it's basically maintenance, which the maintenance consists of anything from engine changes down to changing fuses. We can maintain 2 Sea King helicopters here. We could possibly get a third in if we fold the blades on 2 of them, which we expect to have to do occasionally. We can do quite deep maintenance. We change engines, gearboxes, blades. Most maintenance. The only thing we're not equipped to do is heavy airframe maintenance, which with that I mean changing frames, skins, that sort of thing, where we have to get expert help.
There are 2 types of maintenance required. One is the basic checks and refueling after each flight. But the other type of servicing is much more in-depth and complex, including changing the engines and stripping down the aircraft for detailed inspection. A major service requires an almost complete overhaul of a Sea King or a Wessex. Many engineering skills are required, considering that the Sea King, for example, has more moving parts than any fixed-wing aircraft. Corrosion prevention and rectification is also a particularly important element of the engineering squadron's work, because a considerable amount of flying is done over the sea with its salt-laden atmosphere.
You'll find that every RAF base has to have a full maintenance team to look after its own aircraft, no matter where they are. If an aircraft is unserviceable, it means it can't fly, so therefore can't fly to engineers. So engineers have to be there on the spot.
The present-day RAF Rescue has a complement of 3 aircraft. The first of these is the Sea King HAR-3. When it was introduced in the 1970s, the Sea King represented a major leap in technology over its predecessor, the Whirlwind. Built by Westland under license from Sikorsky, this 52-foot-long helicopter is powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Gnome turboshaft engines, weighing around 10 tons. These engines give the aircraft a maximum speed of 208 kilometers per hour. The Sea King has a crew of 4, 2 pilots, one of whom is the aircraft's captain, a radar operator who also operates the winch, and a winchman, and it can carry up to 18 souls. The radar operator takes over the control of the winch to lower the winchman and facilitate a rescue. It can fly for 6 hours, and with a maximum speed of about 140 miles per hour, it has a radius of operation of nearly 300 miles. The Sea King can operate in nil visibility day or night. The aircraft is equipped with an extensive variety of sophisticated navigation aids to enable it to find its way to distant locations with pinpoint accuracy in almost any weather conditions. Night flying has recently been enhanced by the crews using night visual goggles. These goggles pick up infrared and enhance light by as much as 25,000 times. Once on scene, the Sea King's party trick is the ability to come to the hover as the deck of a distressed ship or the water below rises and falls with the waves. So too does the Sea King, maintaining a constant height, thus keeping the winch cable tight at all times. When in position, the Sea King can be maneuvered by the winchman using a remote control beside the main hatch. There are presently 15 Sea Kings operated within RAF Rescue. 5 of them, operated by a 202 squadron, are on immediate search and rescue standby at any one time. The second aircraft used by RAF Rescue is the Westland Wessex HC-2. Like the larger Sea King, the Wessex is also built by Westland. The Wessex has been in service with the RAF since the early 1960s. Powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Gnome turboshaft engines which give it a top speed of around 140 miles per hour, the Wessex has a radius of action of approximately 120 nautical miles. Flown by a pilot, navigator and winchman, the Wessex can carry up to 10 survivors depending on fuel load. 3 Wessex aircraft are operated by 22 Squadron on immediate search and rescue standby at any one time from a full complement of 11 aircraft. Some of these aircraft are over 30 years old, but with constant overhauls and inspections, they're as good as new and will probably last for 30 years to come.
The Sea King and Wessex are obviously very different beasts, and the differences have to be acknowledged, really. I mean, above the banter that obviously comes with 2 sets of aircrew, Sea King's not necessarily longer, but it's certainly fatter, wider, bigger fuselage. Inside the cabin, it can carry far more people more comfortably than the Wessex can. It's got a straight-through fuselage. It's got a much greater range, extended range, say over sea. It can carry, I think, fuel for about 6 hours, which is something we can't compete with. We've got 2.5, maybe 2 3/4 on a good day, and it's got an avionics suite that's to be envied, really, by us. And also it's got a coffee machine, which is something we are extremely envious of.
The third aircraft in the search and rescue role is the Nimrod MR2 Mark II. At all times, a Nimrod Maritime Patrol aircraft is on 1 hour standby at RAF Kinloss in northeast Scotland, ready to go to the scene of an incident. The Nimrod must be airborne within an hour of being scrambled by the Rescue Control Centre. The crews usually beat that time by a handsome margin. The 4-engine Nimrod will transit to the incident at 400 knots and is able to fly a search pattern in the incident area for around 7 hours. The crew of 13 consists of 2 pilots, 2 navigators, 1 engineer, 1 air electronics officer, and 7 air electronics operators. They can call on a comprehensive array of sophisticated navigation aids. Its communications equipment enable the captain to maintain contact with all emergency services. Once on scene, it can mark the spot with smoke flares and can drop a number of inflatable dinghies capable of accommodating survivors.
The situation is that the platform is completely on fire from sea level to top. We have in fact pulled back somewhat. The structure is collapsing, and it is total fire. We are continuing to spray water on it. One of the standby vessels has reported having 25 casualties, which includes 3 serious burns and 1 injury. We wish to get rid of our non-essentials so that we can handle these casualties when we bring them on board.
Rescue 01, copy.
Rescue 138, the Pharos, we wish you to collect 12 passengers first and proceed then to Ocean Victory to collect paramedics.
Okay. You can stay on radar, Pat.
Yeah, okay.
It's bloody bright, isn't it?
Right, so there she goes. It's certainly collapsing. Right, Rescue 138, are we cleared to close and land on your helideck? Rescue 138, that is correct.
Okay, go clear, off. Okay, got it.
Okay, clear to close. Gears coming down. You're going to bring them into the front or the back?
Through the back is quicker.
Okay. Over the deck on one side.
Forward 3, forward 2, 1, steady, clear below. 2 on the tail, 1 on the tail, tail is on, mains are on. Where they got them in?
Rescue 138, confirm you no more passengers at the moment?
That is correct.
Okay, well, up left 12.
So strap down. Okay, you can go through the ready.
Lift him to the hover.
Yeah, Rescue 01, Pharos. Just to advise you of the vessel's intent, we are going to try and move back towards the platform to endeavour to keep things cool and to hopefully prevent some of the underwater explosions that we're frightened of.
Pharos Yankee Bravo, as you've probably been told, the risers have obviously broken and the oil is now coming straight up onto the sea. And in fact the sea is burning as well.
Ocean Victory.
We'll take out medic. Alright, first coming in.
Affirmative.
How many? 1, 2, 3, let's do 4. Alright, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Steady. The stretcher's on. The weight is on. Left 1 and forward. Steady, steady, steady. Left 1.
winching in leg clear of the deck. Along the high line, left. Until you can see the boat, left and back.
Silver Pit, this is Rescue 138. Silver Pit. While your engine stops, the roll will make it quite difficult for us to safely get stretchers off. Can you get underway, sir?
Yes, it'll be very slowly because at the moment we're having a few problems with manoeuvring and all that. So I see all 4 points of the stretcher are secure. On the windscreen is happy. Right to. Still attached to the boat. Still got it. Lot of oil on the water.
Not surprised.
Oh. Only another few yards now. That's clear, but you cleared me for it. My eyes inside. I can't pilot. Pilot. Winch out. Out. Winch out. Winch out. Winch out. Stop winching. Winch out. Lovely, it's all on board. Clear, bus behind, up and away.
Roger. Just confirm, got 3 on board?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, how far are we going to take you guys?
We're just going to the Pharos to get the one that's doing the firefighting.
Okay. Not what we can do.
Can you tell me how old you are, Billy?
Rescue 01 Sid. Brig is now believed to be emitting hydrogen sulfide, and there is a high probability of an underwater explosion. There is heavy smoke and flames spreading to the north of the rig. This is Rescue 01.
The RAF maintains 6 mountain rescue teams around the country, based at the stations of Kinloss, Lucas, Leeming, Valley, St Athan and Stafford. Each team consists of about 35 men. Except for about 4 or 5 full-time leaders, all are volunteers who take on the strenuous and time-consuming duty in addition to their normal work as tradesmen or clerks. They are not paid extra, but turn out for training on at least 3 weekends out of 4, and must give up 1 evening every week to attend briefings and lectures on mountain rescue techniques. The efficiency of each team comes about through thorough preparation for any eventuality the leaders can think of. Navigation, first aid, stretcher handling, radio procedures and helicopter winching are just some of the subjects in which proficiency is essential. Each team also trains regularly with their local civilian counterparts for the best possible cooperation and coordination. The Mountain Rescue Teams, or MRTs, were formed during World War II to go to the aid of crashed military and civilian aircrew. They are highly trained in techniques which enable them to search rapidly and effectively any type of terrain in any weather at any time throughout the year. Once the accident site is found, they provide first aid to any survivors and guard the area until crash investigators have done their work. It is a commitment which calls for the highest standards of fitness and for the kind of mental attitude which can cope well with scenes which are often distressing. Missing hill walkers, crag-fast or fallen climbers, lost children, these are the regular reasons for an RAF mountain rescue team being called out. But the teams are also veterans of large-scale disasters, such as Lockerbie and Kegworth. Whatever the situation, whatever the weather, the MRTs can assist, thanks to high technical skills and constant training, which enables them to arrive at an accident site and immediately know exactly what is required of them.
Well, what we have is 6 RAF mountain rescue teams. We coordinate 5 from this rescue coordination centre. Plymouth coordinates St Athan in the south. There are also quite a lot of civilian mountain rescue teams which cover a sort of local area. The service is pretty well integrated. The civilian rescue organisation work under the police's authority, and frequently For example, last winter in Scotland in the Lake District, it was extremely busy, and it required the support of both the RAF and indeed the civilian mountain rescue teams. And even then we were sometimes quite stretched.
Over the years since its conception, the RAF Search and Rescue Organisation has grown into a well-trained and effective team. Visual search has been augmented by electronic aids, including satellite surveillance of the emergency radio spectrum. The slow surface launches were replaced by powerful and capable helicopters. Nevertheless, at the end of the day, it is the dedication and skill of the team members, both in the air and on the ground, which dictate whether or not a rescue will be successful. Skill levels and morale are always high, for there can be nothing more satisfying than rescuing a fellow human being in the face of adverse weather or at the extremes of range or capability. RAF Rescue remains ready and alert to assist at any time, day or night. It hopes that its services will rarely be required, for that means a fellow human is in distress and in peril of his or her life.